and welcome to kind of my version of the buck stops here. This is you and me, just a conversation. I've been thinking a lot today. I had a lot going on, and so yeah, I put a post up yesterday asking if you could ask any question, what would you ask? Um, and so I hadn't given my question uh, yesterday. I had some comments, but I didn't give my question. And so today, um, that is my question. When can we really start talking? Um, I'm just kind of done with all of this. Um, we have to find some kind of common ground here. Um, it's, hey Josh, how you doing? I think we have to find some place to grab onto that we agree on because right now it feels like we're losing friendships. We're pitting businesses against one another. Um, we are we are judging each other on how what we feel and believe about different things, and it's never been like that before, and it doesn't have to be like this. I feel like we're being used, like we're like guinea pigs, and and I'm not trying to be Mr. Conspiracy Theorist. That's not my point here. I'm just saying we're better than this. I think we can do better than this. It makes me sick. I've been trying to get some parents. There's a lot of parents who are very upset because their children are struggling at 10 years old with depression because they're home and they're bored and they've been home for months and they don't see their friends. They have no social life. They can't do sports. And in Oregon, kids in high school that are good soccer players. A mom was telling me today her kid can't play. They can play soccer, but they can't videotape them, so no coach can see them. So they feel hopeless. A 14-year-old girl in our community killed herself last week. Um, we this is not who we are, and it doesn't mean we have to go out and it's just I don't want. I'm afraid to. So anyway, my point was, so I went to these parents and said, "Would you come on and talk about this?" And they're scared. What are they scared of? You, because you're mean. I mean, I'm I'm somewhat used to this because this is what I do for a living, and I did this as a news guy. I never got treated like this, but people are trying to destroy people because they think differently than them. You guys, what are we doing? We can't do that. So how do we find a common ground? There was a part of me that was thinking, okay, um, maybe we can find some common ground because so many people were so appalled by what happened at the Capitol, at the nation's capital. Maybe we could go, okay, you know what? Here's a unifying thing that we that we don't agree. We agree that the tiny little thing we agree on is that you should not be um, doing violence at the nation's capital, and two people died. Um, so if we could grab onto that and say, okay, there's something we agree on. Now, can we extend that conversation? So it doesn't matter if you agree with Trump or don't agree with Trump, or you're a Trump supporter or you're not a Trump supporter. You agree that the violence that happened there was wrong. So you can agree on that, and you don't have to agree whether Trump was part of that, whether he incited it. It that's a secondary issue, and it may be really important to you. But in terms of us coming together, we could focus on just that one thing. And then I presented to a friend of mine. I said, okay, so if we agree that the Capitol, then federal property should not be destroyed. That's the thought. So could we take that to the city of Portland and other places that were destroyed? Not the cause, It's not about Black Lives Matters. It's not, we keep that back. It doesn't mean you support or don't support that, but do you think destroying public property is wrong? Can we agree on that? And private individuals' property, is that wrong? Can we agree on that? And then we don't have to, doesn't mean you don't like Black Lives Matter, doesn't mean you don't like this. Can we just agree that we have to stop using violence to get our way? Because whether you're a Trump supporter or whether you're an Antifa supporter or a BLM supporter or a Black rights supporter, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the destruction of public property. But see, when you start doing that, all that happens is then everybody takes it off. Well, that's because you're a white this, and somebody else throws it the other way. Not my Black friends don't do that to me. They listen to me. But I think it's a big conversation, and I think we have to start it. Cassandra says, I'm a single mom stuck with 3 little ones. Hard when there's no adults to talk to. Now, the other thing I'm hearing from a lot of parents, which is what I was trying to address as well, is, you've got parents who are working jobs, and then their kids are 10 years old and at home by themselves and expected to learn online. And how does that, that's just ridiculous. Thanks, David. I'm glad you got your car washed. If my boys were 10 years old, that'd be pretty hard. But we need to be talking about this, because how do we get our kids in a good place? There's a ton of families I know who have kids on the spectrum, whether, Asperger's, autism, whatever the popular thing to say now is, I think it's on the spectrum. And it's really hard for them. They like to be social, or they need that interaction with people. And I have a kid I just love. And I know it's really hard on him. I see pictures of him finding ways to entertain himself. And his mom's posting stuff for him, but it breaks my heart. So when do we start talking about this stuff? And stop arguing? Because I'm tired of feeling at odds with people. I don't think it means you have to back down from your position. I'm not asking that at all. I'm going to continue to speak about what I believe, but we have to find something and not hate each other because you don't agree with me. How did that get in? Where did we let that in? That is not an Oregon value. Where did that come from? I mean, Oregonians, I am one, and we're kind of rugged cusses, but we're a people who you can go to rural Oregon and people there don't care whether you're gay, lesbian, straight, autistic, just live your life and be a good member of the community, and there's no big deal. But you have to sit down and talk to people to find that out. I just want us to be talking again, and not yelling at each other, and not destroying each other. You guys, that's the wrong thing. When you're picking out businesses, and because of what or who they support, whether it's they like Black Lives Matters and you don't, and so you won't do business with them anymore, or because they support Donald Trump, you now make them the bride of Satan, and they don't get your. I mean, that's not who we are, is it? It's not who I want to be. So many people feel emboldened to do things that they never would before. And we can blame social media, but I think it's us. I think we've allowed this, and we need to stop. And I'm not some moral do-gooder. I know some of you think I'm a shit stirrer, but you know what? I'm not going to sit by and be silent when I think things are wrong, and I don't expect you to either. However, I am willing, and I wish that you were too, and I think there are a ton of people who are, is to find something to love about our community again. Stop shaming people because they don't live their life the way you do, or they don't believe what you believe. Shaming? Shaming is something in the Bible that God talks about. I think there's some things that are shameful or good, But to shame people because they don't agree with you about this or that. And see, I can't even bring up a topic. I can't give you an example because what happens is then people latch onto that and that's all they do. And then they rip and bang and bang, and people go, "Why don't you be more? Why don't you be more? Quit being so subtle." It's because you know what I've learned in this business and this life. If you once you put out a little tiny bit, they grab and they rip you apart. I've been torn to shreds, so I'm careful about that. But I want to have conversations again. Um, and I think we have to listen to each other. We have to be, and you can't, I'm going to go, this is one thing I will bring up. We have to stop this, what's it called? The culture thing, cancel culture. That's like, shouldn't even be a word. Cancel culture shouldn't even be a thing. You're canceling people out because of the color of their skin. I thought we were trying to get past that. Like, isn't that just another word for racism? I mean, how do we cancel people out because they are an elk or they're the Moose Lodge or they go to a public house, or we cancel them out because you're white or you're black or you're Hispanic? We cancel you out because you like Donald Trump or because you like Joseph Biden. What, what honestly, if you sit and think about it, it sounds like a bunch of children. I mean, this sounds like we're on a playground and everybody wants to get their way and nobody's getting their way. And so people just continue to fight and fight and fight. And I think part of the problem is we have really poor leadership. And so the playground monitor is basically instigating both sides by holding back on this and giving to this and setting up an unfair system so that you're making kids on the playground hate each other. So why don't we just say we're not going to do it anymore? Not the COVID, not that. I don't mean we're going to take off our mask. I'm not. Why don't we just not argue on the playground? Why don't we force our leaders to lead fairly, consistently, out of kindness? I know we can do this. I think we're just giving up too easily, and we're buying into kind of honestly the lowest common denominator of human nature. I keep waiting for a moment. My wife and I were talking about this the other day. I just waiting for a moment when people can smile again, And I'm going to tell you something. I don't mean this to be mean, and I'm not. I am an Oregonian. I love my state, but when you go to other places, they don't act like this. They don't. I've been to Montana. I've been to Idaho. I've been to Washington State, the eastern side. I've been to Eastern Oregon. I've been in rural Oregon. I was just recently in Redmond, Oregon. They don't do this. They don't treat each other like we're treating each other. They don't. They're not turning people in. Did you hear there's a group in Roseburg that started up? And now they're kind of reversing the roles, which I don't know that that's any better, actually. But down there, because when you turn somebody in, if you go call the health department, they write your name down, and it's public access. So they're getting the public access, and they're now shaming them. So now we're shaming and shaming. Both sides are shaming. So we're not going to do business with you because you don't agree with me. Oh my God. That is just so wrong. And we have to stop blaming the president and Joe Biden. We're not in good leadership. The state of Oregon, I've been critical of Kate Brown. I still am. Um, but I think I am willing to understand my role. And if I'm not willing to have a conversation with people, there has to be some give and take here. When you negotiate things out, um, you have to um, give some things up. And right now, it feels like, um, I guess I'm if I'm honest, um, I'm not a fearful guy, but I'm kind of scared because I see how nasty um, we have become. And you can say, "Oh well, Rick, you are too." We have to get past the name calling. I'm saying, where do we start? I'm just asking, where do we start? I'm just saying, let's get a starting place. Um, you know, you want to find. Um, we allowed this to happen. You want to find blame? It's us. We allowed this to happen. So how do we stop it? How do we quit looking over our masks and shaming and shunning people because they disagree with us? And it's for me, I can disagree with the way a lot of things are being handled, and I can talk about it, but I still do it. Maybe not all the times you do it. When I run, I am not wearing a mask. I have, but if you had a moment and you stopped, and instead of staring at me on the bike path, if you want to ask me a question, say, "Hey, Rick, why don't you have a mask on?" Because I have allergy-induced asthma, exercise-induced asthma. So when I run, I'm really short of breath. I have a lot of plugged up stuff up here. I can't wear one, and I can't get a doctor's permit, and I don't want one. You have to believe me that that's what I deal with, and if you don't, it's none of my business. That's what I'm talking about. There's so many stories behind people's lives, and there's parents and kids and teachers and people that are are very concerned. And we have a whole generation of kids that's growing up in a world that they don't even know what people's faces look like. They don't know what they're doing. So we need to figure out ways to do that. And we got to stop blaming people, because you know what? The virus is doing what a virus does. And so, yeah, we can take precautions and do the things that we can do, but people are still this time of year, we're gonna get people that are gonna get sick. And that's what happens. But when you hyper focus on anything, what if we took some of our focus and put it on helping people in our community, or doing things? I don't know, but I do think we can if we can just walk away with one thing, and this is going to be a stretch for everybody, that violence is not the answer. Shaming and blaming is not the answer. Okay, that's three things. If we could walk away from a conversation like this, stop the shaming, stop the blaming, and stop the violence. That doesn't mean you stop talking, and that doesn't mean you hide your feelings. Or if somebody says, "Do you believe this?" that you should have the right and the ability to kindly say, "This is what I think. I understand and acknowledge why you do what you do, and this is why I do what I do." And then you walk the hell away and mind your own fucking business. I mean, I think there's just a lot. I am disgusted with people tattling on people like you're the moral compass of our world. I mean, come on. And the worst thing, well, that's getting into an issue that'll just bring hell. But I mean, I could go on and on and on, but I shouldn't. I'm trying to keep this as kind and considerate. But if you're someone, Let me leave it like this. Okay. Some of you have heard this before, but I'm gonna, this is something I did years ago. Um, and At the City Club of Eugene, I was their president. This was back in the day when some very liberal friends of mine, I at the time was a Republican, and some very liberal friends came to me and said, "We want you to be the president of the City Club of Eugene." And the City Club of Eugene at the time was a very white haired, white skinned, old people, left wing group of folks. And I looked at them and I said, "Oh my God, do you know who I am?" And you want me? At the time, I was a Christian. Now I'm a follower of Christ. There's a difference for me. But I was going to a church. I was a Republican, And they said, yeah, because at the time, those folks wanted to see growth. They wanted to see new ideas brought into the conversation. They wanted to see, and we did. We stretched them. I remember one of the first things I did was had a night event at Plaza Latina, because Sam Racinos was a friend of mine. Well, these folks were so nervous being around a whole room full of Latinos. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen. And the Republican had set it all up. And I kind of did it on purpose. But that was the whole idea. So two very liberal people had an idea that we needed to be more diverse. And unfortunately, well, at least one of those people is very disgusted with me and not happy, and we are no longer talking. And that's very sad because we've both been outspoken. And I've probably done as much to damage that as anybody else. But before I was the president of the City Club, they had a Christmas event every year. And they'd ask you to give a City of Eugene a gift. And so my gift to the City of Eugene, and now I will take that gift and I'm going to give that gift to Western Oregon, because I don't think Central and Eastern Oregon need it. Maybe Bend does, but I don't think the rest of the state of Oregon needs this. They've already got it. Spend a little time over there and you will understand this. But here is the gift I give you. It's called the free lunch program. So if you think you don't like a Republican, take a Republican to lunch. If you think you don't like a Democrat, take a Democrat to lunch. If you think you hate someone who supported Trump, take that person to lunch. If you think you hate someone who voted for Joe Biden, take that person to lunch. If you think you hate lesbians, take a lesbian to lunch. If you think you hate gay men, take a gay man to lunch. If you think you don't like transsexuals, take a transsexual to lunch. If you think that you don't like Christians, take a Christian to lunch. If you think you don't like people in the Baha'i faith, take someone in the Baha'i faith to lunch. If you think you don't like Methodists, take a Methodist to lunch. If you think you don't like Mormons, take a Mormon to lunch. If you think you don't like people who are homeless, take a homeless person to lunch. If you think that you have no value for people who are in recovery, take someone in recovery to lunch. If you don't like people who wear pink shirts, take a person with a pink shirt to lunch. If you don't like people with gray hair and you think old people are all boomers, take that boomer to lunch. If you think millennials are lazy and stupid, take a millennial to lunch. If you don't like people who don't believe what you believe, then take that person to lunch. Now, here's the key, though. Shut your damn mouth. When you're at lunch, you don't talk. You answer questions and you listen. You ask a lot of questions, but you listen. And when your mouth is moving, your ears are closed. And don't be thinking about the next thing you're going to say. Because when you're thinking about the next thing and how you're going to respond so fucking intelligently, you are not listening to that other person. So you go to lunch and there's no government program. There's no state tax. There's no surtax. There's nothing that's going to pay for it except for you. You pay the bill and you pay the tip. That's the free lunch program. And then you come back and you tell me what you learned about, number one, that person, and number two, about yourself. And then number three, You will never shame or blame someone like that again. I failed to read that. I failed to mention in other groups of people, which I think is so important. If you think you don't like black people, take a black person to lunch. If you think you don't like a Latino, take a Latino to lunch. If you think you don't like a Jew, take a Jew to lunch. If you think you don't like a Muslim, take a Muslim to lunch. We have got to get past this. We've got to move on. We are going to, Debbie Farr, I love what you said. Listening is a lost art, and we are going to regain it. And it's going to take work, and it's going to be the hardest thing we've ever done. But if we don't do this, we as a state are going to go right down the toilet. And we can't blame Kate Brown. She has her responsibility. We can't blame the legislature, although I'd like to go in there and just do some talking there. But we, the people of Oregon, have abdicated our responsibility. We have been apathetic for so long, and now we wonder, how the fuck did we get here? Well, guess what? The roadmap's been pointing this direction for a long time. We've been in the car. We've been allowing someone else to drive it. We didn't even bother to put the brakes on. We didn't even bother to shift the gear. And we made up excuses as to why we couldn't drive the car. We were busy. We were too involved. We did this. And now look what's happened. We've given all of our power to someone else. We'll leave it that way. So we don't riot. We don't scream. We don't yell. We listen. Can you imagine what would happen if the people... Oh, I'm going to take this just a little bit too far. Okay, I'm going to go here because I don't give a shit. Could you imagine how much better I could hear the message of Black Lives Matters, of the Trump people, what were they trying to do by busting into the Capitol? What was their frustration? What is Black Lives Matter? I don't hear the message anymore because I just see the violence. The violence stops me from hearing the message, and I need to be able to hear the message. I don't hear the cries of the people. What I hear is screaming. And when and I think most of us are like this, when the more you scream, when you disrespect and tear up property, when you tear up my Capitol building in Washington, D.C., I don't give a shit what Nancy Pelosi said. They're making it into a political thing. But when you, as a group of people, choose to do that's personal. When you go to the federal courthouse building with Mark Hatfield's name on it in Portland, Oregon, and I did a documentary on Mark Hatfield, and you trash that building because you're trying to make a point. The point is lost because I know who Mark Hatfield was, and shame on you for destroying that building. When you destroy businesses and property of people who are innocent, Black and white business owners who had nothing to do with anything that you did, and you destroy it and say, well, the insurance will pay your bill. No, I'm not listening. And neither are other people. So you're not making any headway. And what we have to go back and do is, Debbie Farr, you get the take a legislator to lunch. I just read that on there. I need to do that. Except, can I take a former legislator? Because then I can take you. But now I lost my train of thought. Debbie, you have good things to say, and I'm losing. And you guys, I'm not putting up all your comments because I'm trying to stay just engaged and focused on what I'm talking about here. But I think we figured out the key here. I think Debbie, I think all of us, I'm just reading some of your comments. I think the magic weapon that we have it right now. Shh. Silence. Listen. Don't react. Listen. Not necessarily to what they say, but maybe to what people aren't saying. Why are they frustrated? Why are Black Americans frustrated? Why are Latino Americans frustrated? Why are Trump supporters frustrated? Why were Biden supporters frustrated? See what I mean? We're forgetting the why. It's not what, it's why. And if we could get beyond the name calling, the shaming, and the blaming, and start listening for the real stories, maybe we can do something different. Because I can't do this much longer. I can't live like this. This isn't living. This is existing. And despite COVID, I can still be living. It's a virus. I can live. It may kill me, I don't know. But I would rather live than die living like this. Because this is just, I'm tired of people hating each other. And not even listening to one another and shaming each other and looking to find you doing something wrong. It's like, fuck you. Pay attention to your own life. Leave people alone. It's none of your business. It's not. You may think it is, but it's not your business. Jenny, you're right. It's exhausting. And here's the thing. I'll go back to the original thing, and then I'm going to wrap this thing up. You know who's paying the price for this? Our kids. Our kids are paying the price for our shittiness. And that is unacceptable. It's not right. It's not fair. We are putting them at such a huge disadvantage, and they're struggling with things we struggle with as adults, and depression. A 14-year-old girl killed herself. And there's more of those stories right here in our town. 14. A 100 years from now, it's not going to matter about COVID. It's not going to matter whether you wore your fucking mask. It's not going to matter that you reported a business because they weren't doing things the way you thought they were, or you screamed at someone because their nose was hanging out of their fucking mask. 100 years from now, it's like none of that's going to matter. None of it. It's not going to matter how much money you had. It's not going to matter what kind of car you drove. The only thing that's going to matter 100 years from now is the impact you had on a child's life. And right now, we are having a terrible impact on children's lives. So we need to get our kids back in school now. And if the unions don't like it, I don't really give a shit. But our kids are paying the price. So it's kind of all I got. So Eugene Weekly, make fun of me. Write up an article and blast me once again. Because I don't give a fuck. I don't. And the less you pay attention to that shit in the media, the better off you're going to be. All of it. Because they're driving a wedge between all of us. So we need to start working with each other. So what did we learn here tonight? Thank you, Debbie, and all the others putting this on. What did we learn? Debbie Farr is my star of the evening. To listen. That's number one. Find some common things. And then if you don't agree, just don't worry about it. Don't let it dissolve your relationships. What happened to diversity being interesting? Those of you who are my really good friends, you're very weird. My kids once asked me, Dad, do you have any normal friends? And I said, I sure as hell hope not. I ain't looking for normal. I'm looking for real. So let's get real with Rick Dancer. Let's go find our humanity again. Can we? Yeah, we can. And it doesn't take a government to do it. And we can do it on our own. And I would love tomorrow to see ideas that you guys have. Write them on my page. What do you do? Is it whether it's something as simple as saying hi to somebody, or whatever, that you're doing. Or I didn't judge people for a change. I found myself wanting to scream at someone who's on the mass patrol, and I didn't, whatever it is. If you find that thing, and then, because you guys, we have to keep talking about this. And we can, I know we can do this. God, you guys, we are Oregonians. If you came here from California, great. If you chose this as your home, you are an Oregonian. But remember, we have things that we do here too. You can't come in and just take away everything. You have to come in and assimilate too. And then we get to assimilate with you as well. But most of the pioneers who came here were rugged individuals looking to get away from this. And now we've brought it here, we've cultivated it, and we need to get rid of it. I highly recommend going to Eastern Oregon, go to Redmond, go to Harney County once this is over, Burns, Wallowa County, and just spend some time with some of those Oregonians, and it'll get your head back on straight. It's not what we have, it's who we are. That's what matters. It's who we are. And if we're not sharing that with each other, how do we have a relationship? All right. Again, I didn't check with Buck Sanitary. They're sponsoring. So next time you have to do your number, 1 or 2. If you see a Buck Sanitary, go in there and give them a wink before you tank. That should be their tagline. Give them a wink before you take. And you guys, I couldn't do this without all of our sponsors. And it's tough right now. But we're doing our best to stay afloat. And I got some really great people that back us up and stuff. So share this on your page if you would. That helps us too. And who knows, maybe somebody out there's feeling the same way we are. I think there's a lot of us who just are, I love the old saying, the left and the right. What people forget is the left and right are all part of the same bird. So if you take off the left wing, you can't fly, or you go around in circles. You take off the right wing, you go around in circles. You got 2 wings because that's what makes things better. And I'm going to throw my own thing in here. The biggest part of the bird is the middle. So if you're far left and far right, you're missing out. The middle is where it's at. I'm Rick Dancer. Have a good night. And thanks for listening.